Since we're going to be working with text a lot on this project, it's probably a good idea to delve a little deeper into the options we have available for us when working with text in Photoshop. Now, I know we've been working with text since essentially the first assignment when we did a postcard, but there are a lot of tools that tend to get glossed over. And because of that, they remain a mystery throughout a student's career until they encounter a project where they just absolutely have to have a specific tool, and they end up doing a lot of research to get it to work. So I'm going to touch on a few things we have available for us in text. Now you'll notice I'm just in a document that is about 12.5 inches by 12.5 inches. It's at 150 pixels per inch. If we click on this bad boy here, we'll see that all that's available. And it just has a background layer set to black. Nothing too exciting or impressive going on there, but this is plenty for us to work with as we start delving into text. So under the text tool, we actually have 4 options available to us. We have the horizontal type tool, which is what we basically use almost all the time, the vertical type tool, and then we have the the vertical type mask tool and the horizontal type mask tool. These two aren't very useful, and we'll get to why in a little bit. Now, let's start with just the horizontal, and I'll just type something out. And we'll notice that we can't see anything because we're at 9.5 point font, and it's actually the measurement is 72 points to an inch. So at 9.5, that's not very large at all. I'm just going to let's just work right in there. We'll just crank this up to 72. That will give us an inch, and we'll notice something. I just have I mistyped the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, which is an old exercise for typing. And we'll see that it flies off the page at 1 inch, but 1 inch would be fairly legible on this. So we have a couple of options. We could come in here and just press return on the keyboard, and that would allow it to go through. Or we could do the other method here. If you click and drag with your type tool, your text tool, you'll end up with this text box. Now the text box means that, and by default, unless you turn this off, lorem ipsum will fill in. This is a type of filler text that's been used for, a very long time in print, and it carried over to computers as well. It's essentially a filler text so that you can see what the font looks like and all that good stuff. But let's just paste in what we have. Notice that as we type again and again, this box will allow the text to flow back to the beginning instead of just flying off the edge. So we don't have to press return. It simply goes across, which is great. And that is the point of a text box. You just draw it to whatever shape you need and you're good to go. Now this is fine for the horizontal text, but I know you're all curious, what is the vertical text to? I'm going to turn off the text layers. Notice, of course, you've most likely experienced this, when I just click anywhere that's not inside of text, you see the little box surrounding my icon here. That means the little I bar. That means that it's going to type out something new. And I can just type away and it will be there. Now if I press not the return key if you're on a Mac, but the enter key, and for those of us on PCs, the enter key on the main part of your keyboard with all of your letters, that will add in a new line and you can keep typing. The enter key that's over by your numerical keypad will actually complete your text and break you out. So now that I've done that, if I click anywhere that's not on text, it will just produce new text. But if I mouse over the text, this little I bar, if you'll notice that the box around the little I bar will disappear, which means when I click in, I will just be typing again inside of whatever I had originally. Now this is useful if you draw a box, a text box, and you click off of it and you draw another text box. You can either make a new line or new text box, or mouse over it and type away. And that will be the horizontal controls. Now let me show you the vertical ones. If you guessed it's going to be pretty much the same, you are right. Let's go ahead and get those up. We've got the vertical type tool. Pretty neat, right? Let's go ahead and put in the quick brown fox. Notice that now it has this sort of sign effect where you draw going straight down. It's fairly interesting. This is a fun thing to do. If you press enter, it will break it down, and it will just keep going across. Now in this case, it's going one direction, which is just down, but you can flip it up here so it goes up instead, which is interesting. We'll talk about that a little more in a minute. But essentially, that's just the vertical type, and you can guess what happens if you draw a text box. It will now type down as it goes. And what's fairly interesting to me is you can press this button right up here, boop, and it will flip it around. So if on the fly you decide that you need to go the other direction, that's not a problem. You can just press this instead of needing to use the vertical type tool, which to me means the vertical type tool is essentially useless. You can just press a button and get to where you need to go from the horizontal type tool. So there are a couple more things you can do to flip stuff around. For example, I'm back in this text box. I'm just going to right click on the text layer, and you'll notice towards the middle of this pop-up menu, we have horizontal and vertical. And so I can flip this around to the vertical set, and we've got it. You'll also notice vertical is not particularly useful by default because it goes the wrong direction. We actually need it to go the other way to be of any use to us, which is aggravating. But there are more things you can do to even mess this up further if you so chose. If you go to Edit and Transform, you can do a flip horizontal, and now it's backwards to where it is, which is great, so you can mirror text. You can also flip it vertically, and so now you've got it upside down and backwards, so it's essentially rotated. So you can do some funny things with your text straight away. You can also move things around. Let's set this back to the standard horizontal. And let's go back to our text tool and click on this. There are some other things you can do which are kind of fun and strange. If you go to your paragraph menu, which you can get to very easily. I think I just clicked the shortcut for it. But essentially, if you come over here to the toggle the character and paragraph panels, it will pop both of them open. And the reason we have this up in our option bar is we have the text tool selected. You can also get to it by going to Window and then going to Paragraph or going to Character to get them individually. You can do what I did and accidentally click on one of them and it will pop right open. And if you click on the flyout on Paragraph, by default, we'll generally be on the default features and the Latin and East Asian layout, but you can switch to Middle Eastern and South Asian layout, and you get this interesting bit, which all it does is gives you control on the alignment for the paragraph, but you can do that up here as well. So it's a strange little feature. I just like to show that there are some hidden things in here that you can get to. Now, that said, I mentioned that that really the horizontal is about the only text you need. If you go here and select the vertical type mask tool or the horizontal type mask tool, and again, you can flip it up in the property, the option bar here. If I click and I just type something, this is some text. When notice it's red, it's essentially in a weird quick mask mode, not the authentic quick mask mode. You see we're normal. I'm going to press return on the numerical keypad to exit, and it just turns it to a selection. But it's a selection I can't edit because it's literally just a selection. So to me, that's useless. Why would I want that? I'm going to do deselect with Control D. I could go in and go to my precious horizontal type tool. I could just type something. And then once I have typed something out, I can go to the layer. Control clicking on this, on the thumbnail here, will make a selection. So now I can do whatever I would have done with the the horizontal type mask tool. But on top of that, I can go back to the original text in case I had a typo, or if I wanted to type something else, I could type something else, control click again, and get the new selection. So really, horizontal type tool is the way to go. That's the one we're going to be exploring. The other three, it's just variations on the horizontal type tool, and they're not particularly useful. So we're going to go over the features that we have in the characters and paragraph, the features that we have over in our options bar, and kind of get a hang of what you can do to type in Photoshop. I'll catch you in the next video.